Hey guys, welcome to Tabletop Coffee, Chuck and Keith. We are continuing on the segment that we started last week with the dance. We're working on A tonight, and I thought we were on ants.
No.
But Chuck is telling me otherwise. He told me what all the letters meant last week, but you know, it's and it's gone. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, A is accepting of your partner's influence as opposed to being defensive. That's all A stands for.
Okay.
That's
Accepting of your partner's influence.
As opposed to being defensive.
Yeah.
You sit with open hands, you receive the influence. That's what we're going to talk about tonight.
But that's so difficult to do.
It is. I'll show you how. Hold on.
Okay.
My natural instinctive response, I have to say, when my wife Kim comes to me and gives her complaint, which we'll talk about in a minute, is to throw up some form of defensiveness, to somehow, some way wiggle out and prove how wrong she is and how right I am. I work really hard to not do it, but that's my default. My mind, starts to go there.
That's a typical
It
default
is.
for most people, though.
It
because
is.
we don't want to be blamed.
No.
None of us do.
No.
We don't want the finger pointed at us, whether we're wrong or whether we're right.
True. And a lot of couples, sometimes it's really subtle, but sometimes it's very overt. It's like, no, I don't. Yes, you do. No, I don't. Yes, you do. Tit for tat, banter for banter. Or they'll receive it, but it's like, yeah, I do that, but you do it more. Or, yeah, I do that, but why do you think I do that? Or, yeah, I do that, but I can't believe you're bringing this up after what you did last week, last month, or last year. All some form of defensiveness. My only job when my spouse comes to me with a concern is to sit with open hands and receive her influence. And that's really, really tough to do.
Is acknowledgement built into that as well, to acknowledge what she's saying?
Yeah, it is. And sometimes you may not understand it, but to simply be able to say, I would imagine what you're saying is true, but I'm just not following it right now. So I'm not tracking with it. So if you would, just kind of go ahead and help me understand, where you're coming from, because I really want to get on board with you. So it's just that good attitude piece.
Right.
What I teach my couples is that when your spouse complains about you, they're right.
Okay.
That's really hard for people to swallow. It was for me when I first started hearing about this information, because I keep thinking, well, Kim's like so wrong about like everything. So, so how in the world is she right about what she's complaining about? Well, the problem is that we don't really we don't know what we look like. We don't know what we sound like. We don't know
That's
how we're
true.
coming across. And so my default, I'm trying to make my default that when Kim comes to me, I just receive what she says. I really want to be changed by her influence.
Think of them as well thought out suggestions.
So when I first started hearing about this information, I'm like, okay, I want a great marriage, and I work with a lot of couples. So there's got to be some truth in this, So here's what I'll do. The next time Kim comes to me and complains about something and gives her complaint in a way that can be heard, hopefully, I'll just look, she's not an idiot. So there must be at least a grain of truth in what she's talking about.
Oh, sure.
So I'll be really benevolent. I'll find that grain of truth. And so I set out on that. I'm not real proud of that, but I'll set out on that mission to try to find that grain of truth. And then what I realized was that when I agreed with the grain of truth, I was not really agreeing with the grain of truth. I was agreeing with the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
And I just couldn't see the rest. It was there. I just couldn't see it at the moment because I was caught up in my own stuff, in my own head and in my own heart. So what I found is that it was just easier to just say, babe, share more with me about where you're coming with that. I really want to get on board with you.
That's great advice.
Yeah, it really makes bad things small, and a lot of times it'll even just make it go away. Just really being present for your spouse and truly hearing what it is they have to say.
Good.
So that's
really-
accepting of your partner's influence as opposed to being defensive.
Hey, and as always, thank you again for joining us here on Tabletop Coffee. In this episode, we covered A in the dance, accepting of your partner's influence as opposed to being defensive. If you're just joining us, you'll want to back up and see the episode on D in the dance, and we have these links in the description below. Be sure to click that subscribe button and also click that bell so you'll be notified of any upcoming videos. Next, we'll cover N in the dance, and this is one you do not want to miss, so be sure to click that bell so you'll see it when it comes out. Well, until next time.